I have with me right now Hannah Mitchell. Am I saying it right, Hannah? Hannah?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, so I'm just going to, we're talking away and I forgot to set her mic up. So that was just Cliff Curtis there talking about Risen, playing the first Brown Jesus. So yeah, please go and check it out. It's called Risen, R-I-S-E-N. I'm going to sit down with the family this Christmas and watch it because it's really cool because most of my family are Christians.
Mm.
You know,
I come from a Christian family too.
Yeah. So and I used to be a Christian. That doesn't mean I've given up all morality and all that, or beliefs and ethos and love for humanity and looking for a future. Looking for good in people always.
Did you know there's a poem by New Zealand poet James K. Baxter about a Māori Jesus?
Okay, go for it.
I just read it this morning actually. Yeah. It's very good but depressing, obviously.
Oh yeah.
It's available online. I'm sure you can look it up. I didn't bring a copy with me, sorry.
That's
but I
right.
did print it out and put it on my toilet door so I could memorize
Okay.
it. So,
what's it called? I could search it.
Māori Jesus, I think.
All right. Poem?
By James K. Baxter.
Māori Jesus. This is a great thing, but this is why I love the world we live in right now. Because here we go. Instantly we can... James K. Baxter. Mm-hmm. And you guys there on the radio, you're probably going... What's he doing? I'm actually typing up on our computer. I'm trying to do three different things at the same time. And so here we go. A poem a day. Is it the one? Or is it the other one?
No, that's it.
Either one? Okay. Oh yeah, the Māori Jesus. So let's have a look at this. So hopefully that's coming out. Tell us about yourself.
My name's Hannah. I grew up in Auckland, lived overseas for a couple of years, and then when I came back from overseas did not want to live in Auckland again, and ended up in Ngare, where I lived here from 2010 to 2016. I've just come back from 2 years in Sydney, ready to be part of Whangarei culture again. It's such a great city. Didn't like Sydney for lots of reasons, and very happy to be back here.
This is what people don't understand. Whangarei is amazing.
Whangarei is amazing.
I'm close to about 20 years of my life here. If on and off, I think it's about 18 or 16. Getting close to it, and it's the only place I feel home. I don't even feel home where I'm from. And I don't feel at home when I'm in Fiji, because I feel like I visited there. Here I'm on a migrant or Ta'iwi, but I feel home in Whangarei. I've lived in Auckland, several years in my teens and in my adult life, but there is so much beauty in Whangarei and openness and so many amazing things happening that you cannot not love Whangarei.
And there's so much bush, so much easy access to the forest and wild spaces here. It's really special. And you can drive anywhere in 15 minutes. Yeah. We've got to keep that as it is though. So yeah. As the city grows, we need to get more people walking and cycling so that it can keep those short travel times. And
people don't realise, and this is something that Cliff Curtis was says, and I've been talking about Cliff Curtis, but he talks about what he does to deal with stress. He comes from a very violent background. He's a well-renowned actor. He's going to be an Avatar, or there's about 3 or 4 Avatars coming out. And he's on there. He's on all this other stuff, and he goes. He's in the backyard or somewhere, and he's got his live Facebook thing going on. He talks about 5-6 months. How do I deal with stress? He goes, and he starts with, well, I eat, and then I go for walks in the bush.
That's right. We need access to wild spaces. It is so important. If you think about it, I mean, humans evolved in wild spaces. Yeah. It's only for the last maybe 3,000 years that we've really lived in these urbanized spaces, and certainly in the last 100 years we've lived with these cars driving around everywhere. Our connection is to nature, and that's one of the things that I'm really passionate about when I talk about child-friendly cities, is that we need to have access to wild spaces. And we also need to make sure that those wild spaces aren't what I call doctored, which is where they put in the gravel pathways and stairs everywhere, because we actually need to have that connection to the ground, to the roots, to the rocks and stuff to climb over, because they do really special things to our brain and keep us connected to nature.
Yeah, and people, like, this is the things where people kind of go, oh, that's hippie, that's airy-fairy stuff, you know, and you go, oh, you know, hug a tree kind of thing. But people, you know, it's not that.
It's not that.
You know, when you walk into the forest, into the bush, you hear the birds, you smell the earth, you smell the, you know, from flowers, you know, you see the different korus and, you know, and the nature of it all, like the ferns. You know, I mean, I grew up in Moroa, and my backyard is basically the bush.
Nice.
Right, and so I would run off into there. If I had issues at home, I'd just go, you know, run into the bush, you know, and just go hang out, play in the river, build a little bridge, you know, and just be there. And so I, you know, so I understand that. It's not, I wasn't whatever they call it, airy-fairy or tree hugger or whatever. I was just a kid, teenager, loving it.
You know what, I think they call it that kind of hippie, dippy kind of stuff because they actually want to hide how important that stuff is to us. They want us to be in our boxes, to be in our boxes of our house, in our box of our car, and be good little slaves to the system. And
that is it. And people don't understand that we need to connect to each other, because, and that's the thing, that a lot of, I mean, I got told the other day, man, you get around a lot. And I said, you know, I'm like, but all I do is go and see things. Like, it's not, I'm forcing myself to get out there. It's not like I'm, you know, somebody's telling me to get out there. I'm just doing it. And I was thinking about it, I thought, why don't people do that? There's so many opportunities. And it's like, so doing this, getting people here talking about it, you know, it kind of helps getting that out, saying get out there. So tell me about, say, child-friendly futures. I see there. What is that about?
Child Friendly Futures is the name of my website, which I created when I went to Sydney after I left Ngare. So when I was living in Ngare for 4 of those years, I worked part-time at Manaia PHO, working on a project called Child Friendly Ngare, which is where we take the children's rights by UNICEF or by the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, and we try and actually enact that at a city level. So in 2012, Ngare started that journey. In 2014, we were the first city in New Zealand to sign up to start the journey towards becoming a child-friendly city, and that in itself was a huge process. Yeah,
and that's what I was saying earlier about how we in New Zealand break things. Like we push boundaries, and that is amazing. We do it here in Ngare.
Do you know what's really interesting actually is when I was looking on the UNICEF website today, the international UNICEF website, it doesn't say that Ngare was first at all. It only says that Auckland and Wellington they're doing it, and then 2 like regional centres. I was like, come on guys, we were ahead of the game, way ahead of the game.
And this is the same thing they do with women's rights in America. They say, oh, we gave them voting. You know, and sometimes I hear it, well, we gave them voting in New Zealand first.
And we also
I don't mean
gave the vote.
them. I mean, you know, they sort of topicalise it that way. Carry on.
We also gave the vote to Māori women as well, whereas in other countries, black or coloured people weren't allowed to vote for a long time after white people. Whereas we were the first people to give not only white women the vote, but brown people the vote. So, yay, Ngaire's coming! All right,
we'll get you to introduce her in a minute. But let's do this thing back here. Actually, I got confused. Let's go back to the child-friendly thing.
So, yeah, you can come in.
Sorry, guys. She was just trying to get our attention to the window.
We have a special guest here today, which we'll get to in a moment.
Yeah, so we're live on air, sorry. But come sit down. So, carry on.
So, Child-Friendly Cities in Ngare has been going for since 2012 at least. And we signed up to have a commitment in 2014. I left in 2016 and was replaced by another beautiful woman, Terry Ann, and that project has been continued to work on. So we're all about trying to make Ngare a child-friendly city in lots of different ways. Some people are focused on health, some people are focused on education. I'm focused on urban design and access to wild spaces. And so together with all of us working on it together, we'll gradually get there.
So it's not just one thing.
It's not just one thing.
You're trying to wide scope of things, and that's quite important, isn't it? I mean, you can't just say, well, this is that's the only thing that's needed, but carry on with that.
So today's quite a good, interesting day, because today is the final deadline for submissions into the Child and Youth Wellbeing Strategy.
Wow.
So the Labour government is leading, I think it's the first strategy in New Zealand that is actually specifically about children and youth and their well-being.
Yeah.
And so you can still put in a submission now for that until probably 5 p.m. It's online on the, I don't know, Google it, probably easy to be found, but there's lots of different aspects to child well-being, which is reflected in the children's rights document. So it covers everything from your health and your education, those kind of lower Maslow hierarchy of needs, if you're familiar with that structure, and then it goes all the way up to self-actualization and making sure that kids and youth have a say in how their city is designed and on things that affect them.
I mean, the incredible thing is that people think that kids are stupid.
I know.
Or that they don't understand things, and that they don't know what is good and what is wrong. You know, what is good for them, and so we decide what's good for them all the time. And I noticed, you know, in talking with even Michelle last week, and about music and stuff, and how they deal with the Sistema Children's Orchestra, you know, from Ngare, you know, and I think they've got a concert on today. But you know, hearing them, listening to them, I find that, you know, in the last couple of weeks there was this article in Herald, I think, where they're talking about how we've been putting kids aside and saying, you know, seen but not heard, that kind of thing. And so where, you know, my sister was talking about how for years she didn't realize that she was allowed to go to restaurants. And then that sort of, because my parents had said, well, you know, we can't take you. And she thought, well, restaurants are just for grown-ups. Until she went there and realized some of her mates were going, and she was all going, what? You're allowed in restaurants? We're allowed in restaurants? And that's the thing, isn't it? So, like, you know, it's like, and I thought about that when I got home. I thought, we always kind of go, you know, push the kids aside. And give them, not always, sorry. Yeah, I'm kind of thinking that in my head.
But
sorry,
recently,
you know,
very much in our urban design.
Yeah, so we kind of go, well, you guys go over here, you know, and you sit over there and not be involved. And then, I mean, I remember a couple of weeks ago running after this one child, and then going to him, my cousin, my nephew, and in a restaurant, you know, just going all over the place. And I just sat him down and said, listen, man, calm down, because in the restaurant, we sort of, it's a real public place, and that's where I'm trying to get at with my thing, is that in public places we don't really want kids to be there somehow. And this is what this article is getting, but for years we've been doing that, and now we're seeing the devaluation of kids. The
devaluation of kids as independent actors in their own lives.
Yeah.
I think in the last 80 years we've seen a real decline in that, particularly because the way that we have designed our cities, we've focused on the economy, which adults do, and driving cars, which adults do.
Yeah.
And so when we put those two things first, and all the other things kind of suffer. And one of the most amazing things that I've ever seen in my work in child-friendly cities is this map, which you can show your
online
Facebook friends.
There we go.
This shows a map of 4 generations of people, starting with the great-grandfather who was able to roam for 6 miles away from his home when he was 8, independently by himself.
Wow.
The next generation, his son, I think, was able to roam 1 mile when he was 8 independently. Then the next generation was only half a mile.
Wow.
And then the next generation was 300 yards, which is not even 100 metres probably. Which is, when you think about 80 years of how much children have had their own freedom diminished because of the way that we've designed our cities, those kids, they were going off and doing their own thing, having their own adventures,
Yeah.
learning and exploring, learning about social things together.
Yeah.
Because you can't learn that from parents telling you off all the time. You actually have to learn it with other kids. I was just talking to a friend today who was talking about how he used to go camping to Great Barrier Island when he was 12, just with one other friend. You know, that was only 40 years ago. So we've really changed the way that we think about childhood, and now the research is starting to come out that it's actually super damaging to the way that children are growing up, and we really need to pay attention to the research that is coming out.
I was talking to Michelle last week about how growing up in Morawa, our backyard on Lady Street was Morawa Tigers Rugby League Club. So we had this huge park, and athletics park was there as well. And this is where Ren Owens is from, and so and Tanya Page. All right, and so you know, neighbours of mine. So across there was our school. But in the weekend, we'd be running around building huts. 5 or 6 of us, playing with sticks, bow and arrows, building our own stuff, you know, never hurting each other.
Did you have your parents watching you at every step of the way?
Never.
Were they anywhere near you?
Dad was inside watching sports. Mum was probably at work at, I think she was working at THC Waitangi at that time, which is, I'm not sure what it's called now. It used to be Beach Cameras, you know, and so we were roaming free.
Well, lucky, you're lucky.
You know, and this is like an 83, 84, 85, 86, 87. It's kind of like that sort of thing. And even when I went to college, we were still running around. Right? And we weren't gangs of kids. We were just kids playing around. I mean, I remember we got up to some trouble in college, but in the younger age, you're right, socializing, right?
Learning how to work with each other.
Yeah.
Learning to do teamwork. Learning all kinds of skills. That
Building huts
today,
takes a lot of teamwork.
They just don't get it at all. And we're expecting them to be able to function completely normally as a child when they're looking at a screen all the time. We definitely need to start talking about this a lot more.
Yeah. Talking about which, there's been Fortnite has been like a lot of kids are having to go to rehab.
Yes, I saw that.
For addiction to Fortnite, and one of my friends who runs the internet cafe, he was talking about not having it in there because of that. This about a month or two ago, and he was just going, this is just something just strange about this game or something, and he didn't want it in the shop, but he had to have it in the shop, you know, in the cafe because people were into it. But now with that whole rehab thing, that's just crazy because how can it be that addictive? It's never been. Gaming hasn't been that high addictive. I mean, it's been
but
addictive.
The technology is changing all the time, and those flickering lights, they are very addictive.
Yeah.
It'd be really awesome if your friend took a stand and said no to Fortnite.
He tried, but you know, when you got a business, you got a business. You know, and that's what, like we're talking about economy.
It's a tricky thing.
Yeah.
The economy then, in the same example, the economy at your friend's store is trumping the needs of kids.
Yeah. But there is also the thing about where, you know, even with that, I was talking to Natalie Gross, who's an amazing person with esports gaming, and they're talking about teaching kids safer gaming time and periods. You know, they did the expo here we had last October, and so this past October, and you know, with Itchy Triggerfinger, and they were talking about, because she's got kids of her own, and she was talking about how, rather than saying, get off the computer, get outside, you go, well, here's something to do, to take a break. You know, tread softly. I mean, these are children, you know, and...
Go lie down on your bed for a while.
Yeah, or have some food. How do you combat addiction with gaming? You know, is that something that you guys look at as well as part of that, or is that something more towards actual buildings and stuff?
No, is gaming addiction something that Manaia Health looks into?
Wow, okay. Shall we switch places? No?
No?
No? But I mean, because we talk about billion-dollar industry with gaming, and it encompasses a lot of things. You got stuff like, you get comic books, you get movies, background of that, and then you go into movies, you do live action or animated, you know, like with recently with Assassin's Creed, right? One of the biggest games, and so on. And then you go on. Then they make figurines of that. Then they make clothing, and all that. So it's this huge economic thing.
I'm very behind on gaming.
Yeah.
My last addiction to gaming was Age of Empires and
Okay.
SimCity 2000.
And that's still going.
A bit dated, but I
Yeah.
did love it. Still love it actually. It got me into geography, SimCity.
See, there you go. So there is aspects of other things coming out of gaming, and people go gaming is useless and you're not learning anything, but there is a lot of things that even professors around the world are saying that there is things that you can learn while playing games.
But we definitely need to think better about how it is affecting kids.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to play a song. This is 21 Pilots' song called Heathen, and it's from Suicide Squad movie. Well, it was on it. So we'll be back after I talk to my new guest, and we'll see you soon.